Hey everybody, Jackson here. Just wanted to give you some information before the show starts. When we recorded this episode of Guess That Record, the static shift consisted of Mitchell Brady and Isaiah Stonehouse. However, in the time since this episode was recorded, Isaiah has left the band. The static shift now consists of Mitchell Brady and Kyle Tenove. So yeah, with that in mind, here is the next episode of Guess That Record. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Guess That Record. I am your host, Jackson Reed. This is the show where we talk about music and try to figure out which album I picked from my collection. Thanks once again to everyone that's been listening. It's crazy, we're now at 4 episodes with more to come. This week on the podcast, we have one half of a duo from my hometown of Calgary, Alberta. Inspired by classic rock, their singles Wide Awake and 1965 hit number 7 and number 14 respectively on the Canada Active Rock charts. They've also had the chance to tour and perform alongside bands such as Billy Talent, Kansas, and Trooper. I'm very happy to welcome Mitchell Brady of the Static Shift to Guess That Record. How are you doing, Mitch?
Great, Jackson. Thanks for having me here today, man.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have you on the show because this is the first episode of Guess That Record that we're doing in person. It's kind of nice to escape Zoom.
Totally.
How we've been, because that's how we've been doing all the episodes so far here.
Right.
Now we're here at Broken Tap Records in Calgary. And Mitch, can you tell the listeners a bit more about Broken Tap and the space you guys have here?
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're here at Broken Tap Records. We're a fairly new record label based out of Calgary, Alberta. We're really fortunate to be, in the Crossroads Market, located there. So we're pretty centralized, which is great. Broken Tap Records motto is if you create it, own it. So we're all about making things easier for the artist, and we're trying to just gain more recognition for artists because it's a tough industry. I mean, we all, are trying to make it in some way or another, and there's a very small percentage that, makes it, in quotation, I guess. So, I mean, we're just trying to help each other out, and we're lucky. We only have a few artists on the roster right now, one being the Static Shift, Finley McDowell, and we're working on a few others as well right now. So it's really exciting, man. I mean, to be part of a record label by any means is something I've always dreamed of doing. So the fact these guys have me on board here is just excellent, and I can't wait to see what future endeavors we make happen.
Yeah. You guys, the Static Shift, were previously with Big Machine Records, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So we were. Yeah, it was a interesting time.
So just, I guess, give us a timeline a bit of that, and then how you ended up here at Broken Tap.
Yeah, 100%. So we were fortunate enough to be on a Canadian national broadcasted TV show, which was called The Launch, which really helped us connect with all those artists that you mentioned on your list there. So yeah, we've been extremely fortunate to be able to do quite a few things just from that show. And like you said, yeah, we were signed with Big Machine Records, which was a really excellent experience for us. I mean, obviously, we kind of feel like nobody's from Calgary, right? So, I mean, the fact we got to be A, on a national TV show, and B, signed for a period of time, which was like over a year, it was great. Again, we learned quite a lot. We didn't end up staying with Big Machine just because, again, it was a big learning curve for us. So we learned what it was like working with a label and the ins and outs of kind of the industry, because it really did hit us kind of full blast, which was great, but parts of it were slightly overwhelming. So, I mean, that's what kind of led us to making the educated decision of not being with a label. Just because, I mean, the world is your oyster. I mean, a label is very helpful, obviously. Let's be real. But at the end of the day, I think you need to work with the right people. And I don't think things correlated like properly at the end of the day with us. So, it is what it is. And again, now we're here. I mean, we're really lucky to have a guy like Chris Davies. He's the owner of Broken Tap Records. Again, he's super like artist forward thinking. So when he told me about that, I was working at UPS as a driver, and it wasn't that enjoyable.
Yeah.
I learned a lot there too, but at the same time, it just wasn't particularly for me. So again, when I was kind of coming out of that, I said, well, is there any musical opportunities? And Chris started up Broken Tap Records. So, I mean, it's just been a really great change of pace. And as opposed to like Big Machine, there's a lot more, again, artist control, which is great. So, it's just been the last kind of month of creating and making things happen, and it just feels like a lot more has been done in the last month than the last year.
Right.
Being
right.
here. So I think we're going in the right direction, which is wicked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so did Broken Tap start in the last year or so here?
Yeah, Broken Tap's a very new label. I'd say it's coming on the cusp of being a year old.
Okay.
So yeah, we're really close to kind of continuing our snowball effect here, should I say. We're again looking at a bunch of new artists, so it's great. It's really exciting, man. So
Yeah. Now I always like to ask people on the show to start off, but what was the first song or album that you heard that made you take music seriously?
Oh man, it was definitely Led Zeppelin 2.
Right.
Yeah, dude, just so influential. I think Jimmy really inspired me. When I was young, I was super lucky. I got to see It Might Get Loud, which is a documentary with
Jack White and The
and
Edge.
The Edge as well. Exactly. So I mean, seeing that as a 12-year-old kid or 13 years old, whenever it was released, it was just like, I didn't know what I had seen at the time. I was just so mystified. And there's a scene where Jimmy Page is like playing his guitar like in this room full of amps, and I was like, that is what I want to do. Like, that is so cool.
Yeah.
And it's just so like, I don't know, he seemed into it, and I was like, I want to be into something like that. That's really cool. So and so then Ramble On's off Led Zeppelin 2, and I was like really into that whole album for a while, and Moby Dick and stuff, all these crazy riffs, man.
Yeah.
They're just wicked. So yeah, Zeppelin 2 is probably, I'd have to say. So
Yeah, that was for me it was the Beatles.
Yeah.
When I was like 11.
Nice.
Then I kind of lost interest for a bit, but then when I got to high school, then I got into Zeppelin, and that kind of started my interest in music all over again, really.
Really? Yeah. So Zeppelin kind of sparked it a lot for you as well.
Yeah, they were one of the bands that really got me like pursuing it seriously like I am now.
Hey man, they're really good for a reason. They toppled the Beatles for a reason, I guess.
Yeah. Now, for those unfamiliar with the Static Shift, Mitch, you are the lead singer and guitarist, and Isaiah Stonehouse plays the drums. So I guess going back to seeing Jimmy Page and It Might Get Loud, is that kind of what made you want to start playing guitar?
I'd say it definitely wanted to make me start like playing in bands.
Right.
Because there's so many shots of them, all playing in their bands that they were in that film. So, I mean, I said, wow, I want to be a part of a group as well. So that documentary it sparked a lot of inspiration for me. So I ended up, it drove me to like finding my peers, which peers played music and how we could like start bands, and probably was in like 3 or 4 kind of not so good
basement bands.
Basement bands before like the Static Shift started getting together, and we like all met each other and stuff initially. So yeah, honestly, so blessed to just play music with the people I like. So
yeah. Now in the past, you guys have played as a trio, but you've been a duo for the last little while now. What's the difference for a band to be just 2 people from like a performing and recording standpoint?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's definitely odd when you don't have like the instant kind of like bass right there. But I mean, I think it's kind of okay because like we've made it work. There's a lot of our favorite bands like the Black Keys, White Stripes, like they're all duos. And last summer I played all the bass parts on the stuff we were recording, so we didn't really come into any roadblocks in terms of missing like the sound. It was just kind of now we're a two-piece. Okay, how can we keep driving it and like giving it some energy and stuff? So yeah, it was like a bit of a oh no, but at the same time it's like we love playing music, so we know no matter what missing link or whatever is going on, we just want to keep playing. So yeah, honestly really cool that I love Isaiah. He's such a great drummer, man. So he's so easy to work out parts with and stuff as well. So yeah, man.
Now, how did you and Isaiah meet and start playing together?
Well, Isaiah actually he he moved from Salt Spring Island.
Oh yeah,
which is very small island off the coast of western British Columbia. So for those who don't know, and yeah, it's like a kind of hippieville. So he came from there to Calgary, which is quite a larger city in comparison. So he did some searching to be in a band, because he was in a band at Salt Spring Island, and he found our flyer within the first week that he was in town. So we were pretty stoked. He phoned my cell phone because it was like a direct link to my phone number, and I interviewed him on the spot, and he just was super personable and a great cat. So I was like, man, we got to give this guy a try. And yeah, man, it's tough to find human metronomes.
Yeah.
But Isaiah's really good, man. So
That's good.
Yeah, 100%.
I was thinking it would be cool if you could give the listeners like a run through of your albums and singles that you guys have released.
Of course, yeah. So it started with our first project, which we went to Revelstoke, BC, took all of our gear in a trailer and set it up in a family friend's living room in their cabin, and just recorded a full album. They were all songs we had been playing for a certain period of time, but yeah, we set up our album, or we set up all the stuff and recorded Windsor Street, which is our first full-length album. It's a ton of fun. We had Isaiah's dad, Christian Stonehouse, produce and mix and master, and like we're super fortunate because Christian is someone who's been in the music industry for so long. So it was extremely helpful having him there, which was great for the first project, and then again for the second project, which was our EP. At Odds. Christian helped us again with that. We recorded that just in his basement, which was wicked. So and then I believe after that we released Common Bliss, which was our live off the floor album recorded at OCL Studios. And that was under producer Russell Broom, another Calgary local great. He is just awesome to work with. He was a treat and a real great experience. And then I guess after that we were on the Launch TV show, so we were fortunate enough to release Wide Awake, the song off the show. And then with the label we produced a couple songs called 1965 and Deja Vu, just a couple singles. And then most recent projects that we've been able to release in the last year were Feelin' Fine and Bottom Line, which are we're pretty stoked about those singles because it's kind of our first release after the label, and yeah, it was just refreshing to finally get something out there,
Yeah. And it was the newest songs were done here at Broken Tap.
Actually, they were recorded at OCL Studios.
Okay.
Yeah, but right as we were kind of finalizing those songs, that's when we were looking into getting a studio space. So
right.
Broken Tap was probably acquired not too far after we recorded those last two. So yeah, it's wicked. I mean,
and you did the music video here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And actually a lot of the crew here at Broken Tap has helped us, film the music video and the whole 9 yards. Like Finley, the other artist under the label, her whole video that was made recently and released recently was all made here. So it's a great space. It's been wicked, man.
Yeah. Now, if you had to pick one song from your guys' catalog that you're most proud of, which would that be?
Oh, man. Oh, that's a toughie. I'd say, like, off the cuff, For me, it's probably 1965. Even though it was with the label, like it was great. We got to work with Brian Howie out of Vancouver Island, and he was just wicked. He was a treat. He knew us really well right away because he just kind of dug our sound, and it just felt really good. I was really proud of my vocals on 65 especially, but yeah, it was a lot of fun doing something in a new studio as well. That was recorded in the Armory Studios in Vancouver, so just a treat, man. I love those singles, Deja Vu in 1965.
Yeah. And as I mentioned in the intro, you guys have had the chance to share the stage with a lot of big names. What have been some memorable shows for the band?
Oh, man, I definitely would say playing the Coca-Cola stage at Stampede, which is hence been destroyed and teared down. Yeah, so it's kind of a bummer to see it go, but like in the grand scheme of things, we were one of the last bands to like play the stage because we opened for Billy Talent quite a few, like 5 or 6 years ago now, right after the launch, and then we got to open up for the Trues at most recent Stampede there as well. So it was just great being able to play at that show, and there was like 5,000 or 6,000 people there, and that was like one of the first times, it was like a sea of heads, and we were like, whoa. So that was cool, but I'd say, or at least my absolute top of the line show was opening up for Kansas in Toronto at the C&E. There was like close to 10,000 people there, and it was just like so overwhelming. It was a half-hour set of like pure energy. I don't even remember it and I was very sober, 100%, but it was just like, it was so amazing having that much energy and that many eyes on you. It was really made you nervous, but it really fueled the live show, right? So it was great. We got to meet a couple members from Kansas as well that night. So, and I met Rob Reiner, the drummer from Anvil, at that show as well. So, and he was just like watching us play. So that was so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, you guys have had the chance to play a few shows outside of Calgary and work with artists from other places. Mm-hmm. Do you think Calgary has a specific sound when it comes to the artists that are from here?
I'd say Calgary has a unique sound. Yeah, I'd say it in a good way. I mean, we have a rich community of arts here. I mean, it's really exciting that we have the YYC Music Awards and stuff that kind of brings Calgary musicians into the light. So, I feel like there is a certain sound. Like I love the Dudes as well. They're a great band that I've seen play in Calgary a lot, and I think they've like influenced Calgary sound, should I say? But yeah, I think Calgary has a unique sound. I wouldn't go as far to say like it shares like the Hannah Alberta Nickelback sound,
right? Yeah,
but like
not much does.
Yeah, which is all right. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's great. Calgary has a rich community of artists again, like I said. So I think we do have our own unique sound.
Yeah. And obviously, the whole music industry has been hit pretty hard by COVID. Mm-hmm. So what has the pandemic been like for the Static Shift?
Well, it brought a few changes for sure for us. I mean, it was a big lull for us and all of our musician friends. We kind of all were put on hiatus. But at the same time, it kind of led a lot of artists, not just ourselves, to like write a lot more and reflect and kind of decide how you want to go about your future endeavors, I guess, because it's like the first time a lot of our musician friends and even ourselves were like
on a break
and not doing much, right? Because we're all pushing the next show and pushing merch and the next thing. So yeah, it was a good kind of reflective period for us. Yeah, I'd say ultimately we're looking forward to when shows can kind of come back around and, less restrictions and stuff. But we'll take obviously whatever we can right now. I mean, playing music is so essential, I think, for society as well. Like people go to a show and they haven't been to one for a while, and it hits them. They go, wow, this is like like I could feel this in my body, right? So I think everyone needs it more than they know. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, we had an okay COVID time. We did lots of writing, recording, and reflecting. So
yeah. And since we're recording still sort of at the start of the new year here, what are the band's plans for 2022?
Man, I'd say we're kind of just getting the ball rolling again right now. This new year, you know, I got a new job and have way more time to like put towards music, which is the biggest thing right now. So I'd say our goal is to try to play where we can, despite restrictions, and you know, working alongside them, and probably to release some music middle to late summer. We definitely want to keep people engaged and keep it going as much as we can. Man, we just love releasing music and playing for people. Those are the two kickers for us. So
yeah, well, I feel like it's probably. We're definitely getting. It seems like concerts are gonna start coming back.
Yeah, as we're getting closer, without a doubt. You know, like I mean, fingers crossed, it's right around the corner. But hey, we'll wait it out. We've been waiting 2 years now, so
yeah. And I mean, I suppose the good thing, sort of with how technology is these days, is that, you know, I mean, especially for my own music. I mean, I've only played one show since the pandemic started.
Right. Yeah.
But I've been getting a lot of opportunities just because you can still sort of promote your music
totally
without having to play live. So
it's true, and you could sit down and connect with people more because I mean, let's face it, we're not the only cats at home on the laptop trying to, you know, work and make things happen, right? So, yeah, man.
So now we're moving into a segment that we debuted on the previous episode of Guess That Record called Show and Tell. Which gives the guest a chance to talk about an album they own. So before we recorded, I said to you to bring the most valuable record that you own in your collection.
And that was a tough one, man. Oh my gosh.
So Mitch, you can bring out your album now and talk about it.
100%, man. So when you say one of my the most valuable record in my collection, it was real tough for me to narrow it down because I love so many records, man. Like, personally, I just really do. But if we're really talking about importance and kind of like influence on me, this record is it. And that record is Inner Speaker by Tame Impala. So it's Tame Impala's first record that Kevin Parker ever released. And it's like, I'm a bit of a creature of habit. I'll listen to albums that I like over and over and over again. So this, you know, some records over that exercise get kind of boring. Right. But that's not every record. And this record, I know, and like probably till I die, I'll always find it interesting. It's just full of like really crazy effects. It has some of my favorite songs ever recorded on it. I know, Alter Ego is literally, well, it's probably one of my favorite songs, ever recorded, period. There's just some great lyrics in it. And the fact, the biggest thing for me in terms of this record is that, again, it's Kevin Parker. It's one guy that did all of this, man. It's a really complex, kind of psychedelic record. So, you know, to listen and to go, wow, this is all one guy who laid down the drums, bass, all those guitars, keys. Like, it's really crazy for me to like fathom him doing it all kind of by himself. And I think he does have a keyboard guy that he works with, which I don't know his name right now, but it's just great. And you can tell that Kevin cares about quality because he put how many is it? It's like 11 songs on 2 records. Right. So, you know, the grooves are really spaced apart just to make everything sound so clear, and like I respect that. I respect the quality over quantity. It's not a massively long album, but man, it's just excellent. So I highly recommend anyone given, I know a lot of people are familiar with Tame Impala's newer stuff. But yeah, give their older stuff a listen, man. It's great.
Where did you get that copy?
I got this copy, I believe, at Recordland in Calgary, Alberta. Which
That's my store too.
that is if you live in Calgary, you gotta hit up Recordland because
Yeah.
they know what they're talking about for
Yeah.
sure.
And this isn't sponsored by Recordland, but I agree. I've been to record stores all over, and
Yeah.
I find like it just has everything you need.
Yeah.
And because I've been to other record stores where I'm like, man, they don't have anything here. Like there's lots of stuff, but there's nothing I want.
No, that's
Recordland
right.
always has what I want for the most part.
Oh,
so.
for sure. And I always find it can be overwhelming because there's hallways of just pure records, and it's like, if you're patient enough, man, it's just heaven.
Yeah, you definitely need a game plan when you go to Recordland.
I think you're right, and a record limit.
Yeah.
Like how many you're gonna buy.
I brought so for my most valuable album here, I brought All Things Must Pass by George Harrison.
Great.
So I bought this one at Recordland as well.
Nice.
Because I've been wanting this one on vinyl for a while, but I've never been able to find it. And then like maybe a month ago or so, I was in Recordland and I found it. And I noticed it was a bit more expensive than normal, but I thought, well, it's 3 albums, so that must be why.
Right.
But then when I got home, I noticed that it had the, if I can open it up here,
Yeah.
it had the Apple catalog number on the side. So I thought, well, that's interesting because on newer pressings they didn't have Apple
Yeah, that's
records.
right, for sure.
So then I started looking around more, and I thought, this might be a first pressing. So
Yeah.
when I noticed in the credits here on the inside of the album,
Sure.
Eric Clapton is listed, and he's not listed in
the newer pressing.
newer pressings
Yeah, for
because
sure.
of contractual things.
Mm.
And then I did more digging, and I found out that this copy that I own here is a American first pressing.
Of All Things Must Pass.
Yeah, so this was pressed at the Capitol Records Winchester, Virginia plant.
Wow.
And so when I found that out, I was like, nice, because I don't
That's
really.
his history right there.
Yeah, I mean, when I was listening to it, I was kind of weird to think like, wow, this is how it would have sounded when you bought the album.
Yeah, right when it was released, sort of thing. Wow.
And so it's kind of disappointing. I'm not going to play it much now.
now that you know the secret.
Yeah. But I don't have many. I think this might be the only first pressing of an album that I own.
Excellent.
So wow. It's a good one. And I kind of, starting with the Get Back documentary, I got on a huge Beatles kick again. And
nice.
Yeah, I've been looking at like rare Beatles albums, and I keep thinking like, oh man, once I have a lot of money, I'm gonna splurge on like the Butcher cover of Yesterday and Today.
with the baby parts.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I know.
Totally.
They have one of those at Recordland,
They
actually.
do. Yeah. They like, man, we definitely repped them well because they got everything, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
This episode of Guess That Record is sponsored by Marvel Marketing. Marvel Marketing is a full-service digital marketing agency headquartered in Calgary, Alberta, that creates digital impact for your company. To find out more, visit marvelmarketing.ca. All right, Mitchell. It's time to move into the guessing portion of this podcast,
Okay, I'm nervous.
for which it gets its name.
All right.
For you and any new listeners out there, I'll go over the rules. So I have a bag over in the corner here, which has an album that I pulled from my collection of over 400.
Whew.
I will give you 3 clues about that album, and then you can ask me 15 yes or no questions to try and determine the identity of the album.
Okay.
Just a small tip for you. You can immediately ask questions like, is it Songs in the Key of Life? Or something like that. But
Okay.
if all of your questions are like that, you may run out of them by the end. So,
Fair.
Mitchell Brady, are you ready to guess that record?
Let's do this, Jackson.
All right. Here are your 3 clues. This album was released in the 1970s. It features 3 of the most recognizable songs in rock music. And this album was originally conceived as a rock opera that told a story.
Okay.
Question 1.
Okay, so that last one, that last piece of information was important. Okay, first question. U.S. based band or UK based band?
They are UK based.
UK based. Okay.
Question 2.
UK based. Okay. Okay. Lemon Twigs are from the States. Okay. Does the lead singer have long blonde hair?
Yes.
Okay. That narrows it down pretty good.
Question 3.
Okay. Was their drummer as good, if not, like, people looked up to him as much as John Bonham?
Yes.
From Led Zeppelin?
Yes. Question 4.
Is one of the songs on the record we're talking about Pinball Wizard?
It's not. Pinball Wizard is not on.
It's not on this album that we're talking.
Yeah.
Oh. Huh. He's throwing a curveball at me, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, well, that's fair.
Question 5.
Okay, if that is the case, you said rock opera.
Rock opera.
Okay. I might try and guess it, Jackson,
All right.
because I think I get a feeling. Is it Tommy, The Who?
It's not Tommy.
Oh.
Tommy came out in 1969.
No way!
But you're very close.
Okay.
You're very close.
Okay.
Question 6.
Rock opera.
So just to clarify, the album was originally conceived as a rock opera.
I understand. Okay.
So it's not actually a rock opera, but it was written to be one initially.
Okay. Is the guitar player an astrophysicist?
No. Question 7. Just to give you a hint, you were on the very right track with Tommy.
Okay.
Don't stray too far.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, Tommy was probably one of my closest guesses. Oh, UK based. I love British rock. That's why I'm pretty bummed right now. I'm kind of slumped.
Well, you're very close. You're very close.
Okay, Jackson. So the band is not The Who, but it is...
It is The Who. I'll give you that.
Okay. Well, then it's... Man, I hate to say it, Jackson. I'm pretty stumped. I know Tommy was their rock opera. But we're talking about a conceived record, so... My solid guess... Oh, blanking now on the record name, but I can see the cover. The Who. Oh, Jackson.
I'll give you another hint. It's the one that came out after Tommy. So Tommy, 1969, their next studio album.
Literally, is it the one with Behind Blue Eyes on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Question 8.
Well, I kind of can't remember the name of the record. What the heck? Oh, Jackson, you may have to help me out here, man. I know it's them with the cement monolith.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure Roger Daltrey was walking away from taking a pee on it.
They all did. Yeah.
They all did. Isn't it called Monument or something?
Nope. Question 9.
Okay. So it is the blue album cover.
Yeah, you got the album cover right.
Yeah, okay. Does the album... Man, I know the album name. Man, I don't... It has the one Behind Blue Eyes on it, but I can't remember the name of the record right now, James.
I'll give you another hint so we can get you the name here.
Yeah.
The band's name is in the title.
Who's next?
Congratulations.
Oh!
It is... Who's next?
There we go.
Yeah.
I love that record. I haven't listened to it in a minute, obviously.
Yeah. So,
Good one.
yeah,
Nice one.
my favorite Who album.
Nice.
So when do you remember first getting into the Who?
Oh man, probably seeing like a video when I was younger of Pete smashing his Rickenbacker into his amp.
Yeah.
It's like some sort of pop festival or
Monterey Pop?
I guess it was the Monterey Pop where he did that. And seeing that type of anger is pretty crazy on stage as a Calgary-based musician. Like, I've never heard of anyone doing anything like that. And when I was younger, I was like, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Yeah, I love Pete Townsend. And I'd say the Who was locked into my I love these guys repertoire when I watched the Woodstock documentary.
Yeah.
Because they are just wicked on there. I'm so bummed I couldn't remember the name.
Well, we got it, so It's all good. Yeah.
Good work.
It's funny you bring up Monterey Pop. So the Monterey Pop Festival happened in 1967, and it was kind of the first psychedelic festival when you look at sort of the history of that movement and stuff. And it was also the introduction for a lot of rock bands that were still kind of starting out. They hit it big after playing Monterey,
right.
So the Who they were on their first trip to America, as was Jimi Hendrix. And they were supposed to play back to back, and they had a big fight over who was going to go first.
Oh, of course
because they both wanted to smash their guitars. So the Who went first, Jimi Hendrix went after the Who, and of course Jimmy lit his guitar on fire.
That's why that was so iconic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the funny thing so there's a museum in Seattle called the Experience Music Project, and they have a bunch of Hendrix memorabilia. They have his Woodstock guitar.
Wow.
They also have the chunk from that guitar that he lit on fire, like where you'd plug in.
No way.
They just have that one piece of that guitar.
That's so cool.
And the other funny thing, I was in New York, and when I was in New York, this was like the last trip I did before the pandemic out of Canada.
Right.
At the Met Museum, they had this exhibit of rock and roll instruments.
Ooh, cool.
I'll have to show you some pictures after because it's crazy.
I'd love to see them.
But they had a ton of Who instruments, including Pete's SG that he used at Woodstock.
Oh,
so
wow, that's so cool! You got to see it in person.
Yeah, no, it was a bit of a religious experience. I mean, yeah, the stuff they had in there was unbelievable.
So, didn't he toss that guitar out into the audience after?
Well, he definitely smashed it, but I believe that they said that they put it back together. Whoever
acquired it,
put it back together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there was a few guitars where it was like the headstock broke off, but we glued it back on or whatever.
I'm sure. Right.
Yeah. So before we move into discussion about who's next, I'll give some fast facts for those who haven't listened to it or don't know much about it. Who's Next is the fifth album by legendary British band The Who. It was released on August 14th, 1971. The songs from the album came from a project called Lifehouse, a rock opera that Pete Townsend wrote to be the follow-up to Tommy. But after the project fell through, the band decided to record the songs from Lifehouse as a standalone album. So that was that clue.
Right.
And as I mentioned also, some of the songs have become rock and roll staples, including Baba O'Reilly, Behind Blue Eyes, and Won't Get Fooled Again.
Iconic. Oh my goodness.
So I wanted to talk a bit about Lifehouse for those who don't know about it. So in 1969, The Who released Tommy, which was a revolutionary album in that it was one of the first ever rock operas where all the songs on the album told a story.
Yeah.
And Pete began work on the band's next project a year later in 1970, and it was going to be Lifehouse, which was another rock opera. I have a bit of a snippet of the plot here that I got off Wikipedia, but Lifehouse was set in the future in a society in which music is banned, and most of the population live indoors in government-controlled experience suits. A rebel, Bobby, broadcasts rock music into the suits, allowing people to remove them and become more enlightened. Some elements accurately describe future technology. For example, the grid resembles the internet, and grid sleep, virtual reality. So Lifehouse, they were going to make an album, and they were also going to make a movie of it.
Right.
And Pete wanted to develop the material live with an audience because the big theme of the album was like communion through music.
Right.
So in early 1971, they played some shows at the Young Vic Theatre in London to try and they were basically going to play the songs and bounce ideas off with the audience.
Oh, cool.
But it didn't work.
No.
The audience just wanted them to play My Generation. So
yeah, for sure.
they started recording the songs, but they scrapped the original takes at the suggestion of Glyn Johns, and then they just decided to cancel the Lifehouse project.
Right.
But they kept the songs, and that's what ended up on Who's Next.
I see.
I do think if Pete, because Pete was sort of I think it was too big of an idea what he wanted to do with Lifehouse.
Right.
But I think if he kind of just took the story as it was, I think it could have been amazing.
Something tangible, yeah.
It would have been a great trilogy because you'd have Tommy, Lifehouse, and Quadrophenia. 3 albums that tell stories.
Very unique stories, yeah. That's really cool.
So I thought we would go through the album track by track here, and you can chime in,
of course,
with any thoughts.
Yeah.
So it starts off with Baba O'Reilly, which is one of the most sonic sounding pieces you could ever get.
It's that keyboard intro is so cool.
I know,
the repeater or whatever he uses,
the synthesizer.
It's just great. Yeah, I think it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember talking about that song with my uncle, and he was like, the first time I heard it, it was the craziest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I think most people, when you hear it, it's kind of whoa, it's just
far out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
The second song on the album is Bargain, which is sort of one of my favorite, I guess, deep cuts from the band, because it's not really, no one ever really talks about it, but I love it. And when I saw The Who, when they last played in Calgary in 2016, and they played that.
Yeah.
And that was oh, nice. It's they did that for me.
It was refreshing, yeah.
Yeah. Then we move on to Love Ain't for Keeping and My Wife, which was written by bassist John Entwistle.
Yeah, that's right.
And My Wife is actually the only song on the album that wasn't written for Lifehouse. So it's kind of
an extra addition to
the
record. I see.
Then we have The Song Is Over, which ends side 1 of the album, and that was written to be the finale of Lifehouse. And I think it's actually one of the band's best ballads.
Right.
Then starting with side 2, you have Getting in Tune and Going Mobile, and then the album ends with Behind Blue Eyes and Won't Get Fooled Again, which is a song that must be played loud.
Yeah, oh, of course, especially the
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think that song, that, when I was first getting into The Who, that was the one that really sold me because I love Pete's guitar on that song. The tone is just perfect.
It's so awesome. And everything they do together, including Keith's drum fills and Won't Get Fooled Again, they're just all working together the whole time.
Yeah.
It's such a great song.
Something cool about Pete's guitar that he used on this album, it was a 1957 Gretsch.
Oh, that's great.
That was given to him by Joe Walsh.
Oh man,
And
Joe.
it's funny because Joe Walsh gave Jimmy Page the Les Paul that he used with Led Zeppelin.
The 59 Burst or whatever. Yeah, that's right.
So I guess Joe was a pretty good guitar salesman.
Yeah, he knew who to give the right axes to.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to Won't Get Fooled Again because you were mentioning just everything about it. I think it is the perfect Who track because you got Pete's loud guitar on it. John Entwistle's amazing bass playing. He's just doing what he does.
Oh, it's so good.
Which I mean, he plays a lead guitarist really in a way.
Essentially, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And then Roger Daltrey, just has got his amazing vocals and
Great
the
lyrics.
screaming.
Yeah, totally. And like fighting in the streets, like just like the imagery about his lyrics or in his lyrics in that is just great.
Those are Pete's lyrics.
Yeah,
but,
right. But still,
yeah,
he captures it well, like they do a good job. So.
And then, of course, Keith Moon's drumming is also a masterclass, I guess, on that song.
Outrageous, yeah.
And it's also kind of like with Baba O'Reilly, it's very important for the development of the synthesizer. Because at that point in time, the synthesizer was still a relatively new piece of technology. And I think Pete really demonstrated how you can use it to create songs.
Yeah, I agree.
I
think Pink Floyd kind of saw what they were doing with it, and it just kind of blew up even more. Like, yeah, I think that's great.
And it's funny, like when you look at pictures of like, because Pete had a kind of like a home studio where he recorded demos,
right?
And like, yeah, he's got like those synthesizers that are just like as big as a wall and like have just cables everywhere and stuff. It's crazy,
and it's just a lot to look at.
Yeah, it's crazy how they figured out how to use all that stuff.
Man, yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I'm sure they got some sounds out of it, and they were like, "Man, let's use this." Yeah.
So after this album, the band made another rock opera with Quadrophenia, which really was their last album that was like that big in scope. They kind of like, they never really made anything like as grand as Tommy, Who's Next, and Quadrophenia.
For sure.
And it's kind of crazy looking at Who's Next and thinking like 7 years later, Keith Moon's dead, and the band's never really the same again.
For sure.
It's kind of crazy how time flies for a lot of these bands. And
of course. Yeah. I find it so fascinating how the Who like got another drummer, like someone,
Kenny Jones.
Someone was telling me they literally were at a show and that may be a different story altogether. But they needed a drummer, and they asked the audience. Someone came up.
Yeah, that was when Keith. I think that was on the Quadrophenia tour, so like 73, 74.
So that was a bit earlier. Still.
And Keith was just passing out. He was so drunk that he just kept passing out. And then they brought on. They were just like, "Does anyone know how to play drums?" And then they just pulled a guy out. Of the crowd.
And he appeared to do a good job, I guess, which is awesome. So.
But yeah, Kenny Jones was the guy they replaced when Keith died.
Passed away. Right.
He was in like the Small Faces and Faces with Rod Stewart.
That's
and stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now I wanted to ask you give me your top 5 Who albums.
Oh man,
or just your favorite one if you can't think of 5.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, man. I mean, in terms of Who albums, well, I'll give you top 3. Tommy's my third favorite, just because like, even though it was like really kind of iconic and like first like rock opera and very conceptual, I found it interesting when they got super specific in their songs, like in comparison to Won't Get Fooled Again, Pete's lyrics are really I feel like they're a bit more relatable as opposed to Tommy. Again, it's very specific, and if you watch the film, the music goes hand in hand with kind of what you're seeing, and of course, but I think for that reason, I just couldn't relate to Tommy as much as I think I wanted to. It sounds great though, and I really respect them for like coming up with a concept, because I think
it was so new at the time.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like one of the only other concept albums probably was like Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah.
At that time, which we all know how iconic that one is. So
yeah.
I'd say that. And then second favorite Who album is probably which has Pinball Wizard on it.
That's Tommy.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I don't know. I'd say my second favorite one was the one with My Generation on it. Like
that's like their first album.
Yeah, literally their first record. Just because they
kind of invented punk.
Yeah, totally. And like you can even hear like Pete flicking his switch between treble and rhythm in My Generation, obviously. And it's just like, I don't know how many people know what he's doing when he's doing that. But like, for me, I can hear what he's doing. I could see him doing that.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's very raw and like in your face, and him just flicking the switch is like attitude.
Yeah.
So I love that record. And then probably Who's Next for sure, just as my number one, because Bob O'Reilly was like excellent. Behind Blue Eyes lyrically like influenced me a lot when I first initially kind of started. And Won't Get Fooled Again is the cherry on top, man. I mean, if you like have ever seen Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny, you know how important the power slide is.
Yeah.
And in that film, they demonstrate literally straight from a Who show.
Yeah.
Pete Townsend doing the power slide, and that's just like the very definition of rock and roll, in my opinion.
The funny thing about going back to my generation, but Jimmy Page actually did some session work on that album.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think...
Not surprised.
I think the songs that he played on, I don't think they made it on the record, but like they've been included on like special editions and stuff.
Wow, I'm gonna have to find him. I'd never heard that he
Yeah, he did work with the Who there.
Yeah, he worked with bloody everyone.
Yeah. And I mentioned earlier, but I saw the Who play at the Saddle Dome in Calgary in 2016, which is my only Who show. And they were just amazing because, Pete and Roger were just really both on their games that night.
Totally.
Like, Won't Get Fooled Again. Roger did the screams like perfectly,
like bang on,
yeah.
And like I was there too, man, and I saw Pete do the windmill, and you're like, dude, how? Like this, like well, these guys are excellent. They're true showmen. Like
and it's good because on that tour they were recording all of their shows, and you could download them the night before. So I have that show
that you went to see.
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I could give it to you if you wanted.
Yes, please.
So I guess you have seen them at that show. Was there any other times you've seen them, or
that was the only time I got to see the Who as well? I mean, I figured because at the stage they're at, and who knows how much longer they'd be touring. So I was like, I gotta see them right now, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably like them and Rush are the best concerts I've been to.
Oh, killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've unfortunately never been lucky enough to see Rush live, but I know oh man, they're just technically so excellent, man. Rest in peace, Neil Peart.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I'm glad I saw them on the last tour, so glad I went.
Good work.
And when I mentioned that I went to New York there pre-pandemic, but when I was in New York, the Who was actually playing at Madison Square Garden.
No way.
And I didn't go. And looking back on it, I wish I did. I was on the Stephen Colbert show that same night.
Oh, that's still pretty wicked, though.
But honestly, I wish I went to see the Who, because it's I mean, you don't know when. I mean, they don't come out this way very often, so
it's true.
And going to Madison Square Garden would have been nice as well. But the funny thing is that earlier this week, so we're recording in February right now, they just announced they're going on tour this year, and I was thinking, I wonder if they're going on tour again. But yeah, the other day it's like,
here we go,
full on tour.
Wow. That's full respect to the guys, man. That's tough being, having done it for so long, and they're still like, let's do it, man.
Yeah,
another
exactly.
tour. I love it. I love that.
Yeah. Well, we've reached the end of episode 4. I want to thank Mitchell Brady of the Static Shift for being an awesome guest and having us here at the beautiful studio at Broken Tap Records. It's been great talking with you.
Hey, Jackson, thanks very much for coming today, man. I'm honored to be on the show, and can't wait to give it a listen when it comes out, man.
For sure, yeah. As always, I want to thank our listeners who have been tuning in every week. Make sure to leave reviews wherever you're listening. But as I say, tell your friends about the podcast. Podcasts live and die by word of mouth. So if you have friends that love music, maybe get them to check us out. We're also on Instagram at Guess That Record, so a follow over there is much appreciated. Remember to keep rocking, and we'll see you on the next episode of Guess That Record.